Let's talk about water pressure while you're running on the water pump itself, and what happens, at least in my situation here, with either a slightly restrictive faucet, shower, or something like that, or if you're just running the water not at full blast. So right now what I've done, while I am connected to shore power, I've shut off the charger, so my battery voltage is around 12.7, 12.8. And that's going to make a difference, and you'll see why in a second. But I want to note that for the first part of this video, my DC is running directly off the batteries as opposed to running off the charger from, it's not being charged from the inverter. So that's affecting my voltage. That's going to affect the pump speed, and it's going to affect the rate of water flow from the pump. So keep that in mind while you're watching this. I have here. I'll turn off the overhead fan, see if that makes this video any easier. I had the fan running in order to help drop the voltage down of the batteries. So you might be able to hear that the pump is cycling and that the water flow is changing. I'm actually surprised it's doing this. It's probably doing this because I shut the fan off. If I turn the fan on, it's going to decrease the amount of voltage available to me. So it's still cycling, but it's taking longer. The pump can almost run consistently, but it can't quite do it. So even when I'm on battery, at least a freshly charged battery, the pump will still cycle. Now if I've dropped the battery voltage down low enough because I'm boondocking or wally docking or something, then this will stay consistently running. And that's great. It means this pump isn't cycling. It means I don't have annoying water pressure changes and that sort of thing. In the new Air, at least in my new Air, this is the only faucet that does this. And I have removed the strainer here to make sure it's not clogged up or anything. It's just the flow rate of this particular faucet. I don't have that problem with anything else. The shower runs consistently. The toilet flush runs all the way through. In fact, I don't remember hearing the pump cycle for the washing machine or the kitchen sink or anything else like that. But so I'm kind of solving this just for the kitchen sink. But it comes in handy too if you're not running the faucet at full flow. If you're trying to conserve water in the shower by running it a little bit less, it helps in that situation too. So let's go ahead and turn the charger back on. Now it's going to go into bulk charging instead of float, so my voltage is going to be even higher than normal. And if you're paying attention, you might notice that the pitch of the fan has changed. And let's do this again. You'll note that the pump is cycling more because I'm on shore power, the battery's being charged. So I mention this because some folks have said, well, this doesn't happen to me, and it's possible that it doesn't happen to you if you're running off batteries. But if you're running offshore power or your battery voltage is higher, it might happen to you. So that's something to check. But like I said, this also helps in situations where you're not running the faucet at full blast. So how do I solve that? Much like home well systems, they have an accumulator. This is basically just a tank with a bladder in it to separate water and air. So this is a small little accumulator that I bought on Amazon, and I'll give you a link to it. It holds, depending on the pre-charge pressure and all that sort of stuff, it holds between 2 and 4 ounces of water. It doesn't sound like much, but it actually makes a pretty big difference. And what I've done here, this isn't even installed, this is a typical Ben installation. There are multiple ways to install an accumulator for this kind of purpose. You can install it at the end of a run, so you only have one connection in and the other end is capped off. That's fine. What I've done here is I've put it inline. That was sort of the easiest installation for me, given my current setup. And so what I did was I disconnected the cold water line from the sink, and I put this in line, between the cold and the sink. So that works perfectly. And I'm taking this video because I've lost pre-charge here. So what's happening is if I, you can kind of see this, if I shut the water pump off and I run the water. Now even without a good pre-charge, right, I still get some water, but you can kind of see if I turn the pump back on, I let it fill. You can sort of see that this runs for a few seconds. This is going to be very different once I fix the pre-charge, and that's also going to affect how long the water pump is going to run for. So all I'm going to do, and it's going to be too difficult for me to do this on video, I have my air compressor here. This is just a standard tire connection. So I'm gonna pre-charge this, in my case, to 30 psi. That's actually the factory pre-charge. And the reason we're setting it to 30 psi is basically based on the documentation of what you want to happen in this kind of configuration, and that is the water pump. So the new air that I have comes with the Shurflo 48 pump that has a default turn-on pressure of 30 psi and a shut-off pressure of 55. And so the documentation for this says to set your pre-charge to the same as your turn-on, as your cut-in. So 30 psi. You can charge it higher. That's fine. It just means you're not going to have as much volume available inside the tank, and so it won't store as much water, and so you're just less effective. So the most efficient setting, the most efficient pre-charge is to set it to your pump cut-in. And so that's what I'm going to do now, and we'll come back in a second. So I've got a 30 psi pre-charge going here, and I'm pretty sure the fact that I had this installed in line, even without a pre-charge, was affecting the before video, where you wouldn't normally see your water run that long. It also kind of depends on how much air is in your lines and how flexible your hoses are and things of that nature. But so I've shut the water pump off, and I'm going to run. And basically, all of that is coming out of the tank, out of that little holding tank. So you can kind of see the effect that it's having on storing water. So now if we come in here, you can see that even though I've got the charger on and I'm at a high voltage of 14.4 or so, my cycling is less. When I'm in here, let's take this to off, and it actually takes a little bit of time for the battery to kind of bleed down to the 12 range, but that should still have an effect. Much less frequent cycling. So it just provides for a nicer experience, and means your pump isn't cycling as much, which is certainly good for the pump. So that's it. It was a pretty cheap upgrade, if you will, and pretty easy to install. So I just had to, it doesn't come, or at least mine didn't come with all the washers that I needed, so I just went down to the local RV store at the time and picked up some of the appropriate sized washers so I could install it into the system. That's that. Hope everyone's well and staying safe. Enjoy. As always, feel free to ask questions.